Hey, Kim.
What's going on there, bud?
What's going on? Life is good. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. All right. This is another episode of the New Resilience podcast where we have folks like you, legends like you from the field, talk about the lessons, talk about what people can learn from you, the challenges, everything, and most importantly, the stories along the way. All right. Let's get started. Tell us a little bit about you. Again, a lot of people in the space might already know about you, but, a
Sure.
bit about you. How'd you get into this space?
Yeah, so originally the plan was to start as a case manager for a company that was doing in-home case management. We worked specifically with mental health, and it's actually a friend of mine who kind of jumped in and said, hey, we're going and meeting clients, them in their home, and kind of assisting them with daily affairs, be it medication, making sure that they're taking their medication, keeping their place clean, participating in daily affairs. At the time, that was the contract was set to meet these clients in home. We had no idea that it was going to grow into a much larger thing. And that place that I'm referring to is Crown View. Great program, great with high acuity mental health. And, I fell into business development by accident, really. Like I said, I started as a case manager. My plan was to work with clients and run groups and sort of do all that is required of somebody who's a drug and alcohol counselor. The boss came to me one day and said, man, I'm taking too many phone calls. Help me out. Are you willing? I said, absolutely. And what I've come to know about that particular boss, as well as many others, he was actually a terrible teacher, right?
Right.
The name of the game was follow around, try and catch the chaos, right?
Okay.
He was kind of taking all these phone calls, and then he'd say, oh, here, take this number, do this call, run the assessments.
All right.
And I'm kind of like running around like a madman, like, what does it all mean? What am I doing? Right.
Right.
So, within a period of time, I mean, it all made, plenty of sense. And there was still a lot to learn that I was unaware of at the time. You're working with insurance. What does insurance mean? And also, I'd say the most important part was being able to convey hope, right, to families. Like I said, I didn't intend on becoming a business development rep. But very quickly, I realized how much joy I had in being able to communicate with families and kind of tell them, like, man, there's a chance for your loved one, and I think that we can help, and watching case after case kind of come in and actually start to get better really kind of reaffirmed that I loved what I was doing. And the knowledge base just kind of grew from there, participating in things like treatment team and listening to our doctor, following him around and just kind of listening to what, the different diagnosis was and how to approach those with medications. And, cause I mean, he's obviously a very learned man, right? Being a doctor and all.
Yeah, of course.
Me, I'm just a lowly citizen.
No, sir, but...
I mean, I just found it so interesting to see, sadly, how some of these diagnoses change a person's complete, path in life. We've seen too many cases of, would-be scholars, would-be successful in whatever it is they're studying, and some of the diagnosis just kind of rips that away from them, and the family is left in the wake going, oh my God, how do we help our loved one, and what does this mean for the future? So being able to sort of convey those messages and reassure them in the treatment we would be providing and the success stories that we had seen, I mean, it really brought me a lot of joy.
So at the core of it was about helping people see great outcomes.
Yes.
And that's really what I'm guessing still drives you today.
It's part of it. I would say that is, that's kind of the majority, but there was also, from a business development, I would say, perspective, there's a joy in the hunt, right? In finding those cases and delivering that message, right? So trying to be, one of the things I can always say about the boss I had there at Crown View was simply put, was that acquisition of clientele needed to happen ethically, and the idea that there was enough clients to go around always existed
Yeah.
within that group. And so not only were we able to always go after clients in a way that didn't have any kind of darkness behind it, right? Like not money exchange for
Sure.
client, and
Yeah.
at least not directly, in that way, was really great. But also too, there was a huge team mentality behind it. There was a vibe of like, we are on a mission, a good mission, and if we remain at least somewhat spiritually connected to that mission, clients will come, But the little bits of chaos that happen around, talking with another facility, is the client going to make it? How do we get them there? Right? Like planning all of those things out was just enough of like a hook of chaos,
Right.
to grab the soul and be like, oh my God, I love this. It's
So
like,
there's a problem solving sort of aspect to it.
100%. It feeds the soul in a kind of an odd way, right? Like you get
Yeah.
that sales mentality, but not in a grimy way.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way that you're actually like helping people
Yes.
who most need it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and I was able to kind of like help build that, take that model with the boss, and then bring in people who shared that experience and sort of watch them grow up underneath me. Not only just from a sales side, but an admission side. So kind of looking at it from like outside sales and inside sales of watching, a gentleman on my team, continue to carry that message outward, but also that the inside, the team selling it towards the inside was protecting not only the family, but also the staff inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole nother battle, because I have always found that admissions and business development teams battle the internal staff. It's just kind of this ongoing,
Why is
war.
that?
Usually it has to do with, wanting to admit somebody, right? And having pushback from the staff side, or accusations, right? Clients sometimes come in and they say, well, I was promised my phone, and I was promised my this and my that. And the admissions team on the backside is going, we didn't promise any of that.
Right.
Sometimes that is the case. Some facilities maybe do, I don't know. But I can always say for my team, we knew there was no promise of phone or, cigarettes or anything like that. And so every once in a while, a client would come in and say, oh, I was promised. And the staff immediately kind of turn around like, oh, what is admission saying? And it's like,
Right.
I swear we didn't do that, So that's usually kind of, plus, truth be told, and this is not mine, but I'm going to repeat it because it's beautiful. I think a gentleman from C4 Consulting once said that first of all, if a treatment center stays together long enough, it's inevitable you become a family.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that exists, right, like the sickness of a family can exist within it too. You get so close to everybody, you start pulling and pushing, and just the way that it goes, egos fly, toes get stepped on. It is what it is.
Sure.
But C4 Consulting said that if a facility is not cautious and taking care of itself, it can become the thing that it treats. And I always thought that was such a moving statement, such a real statement, and I've seen that happen like time and time again, right? The mission is good, the vision is good, the team is there, everybody's kind of moving and grooving, but pride and ego sets in, right?
100%.
And the push and pull, the sickness of a family, and next thing you know,
Yeah.
people are either loaded or their mental health is out of line.
Yeah. 100%.
So
Okay. So, like, you talked about, like, again, the rush of the hunt and the idea that at the end of the day, like, you're helping people. So that's a good side of it. That's what, like, I guess, as the hook to, like, keep you going. I'm sure there are challenges that you face along the way too. So, like, when you think about your role today, what are the top two biggest challenges that you face?
Being willing to move with the time. I think that change is inevitable, and one of the challenges I face is that I have to be willing to kind of move with the times, and willing to change either perspectives or even the way that I'm used to selling, if you will, in order to find the source of the clients, right? and willing to build relationships beyond what I think, because I like to sometimes think, right, that I'm the be all and all. Of course, God bless, right, and that's just not the case, and so remembering that, like, sometimes what I think is right is not always the case,
Right.
and that having that perspective can stop me from having the opposite of that thought process can stop me from building quality relationships with people based on what I think I know, right, versus just participating and being a part of. So
Got it.
the challenge always lies within, right?
So when you talked about, like, you said something about the times they keep changing and the industry keeps changing. So if you may and if you can sort of like talk about some specific ways in which things are actually changing and that's causing you to maybe adapt,
Yep.
ways in which you sort of go about,
Yeah. So I mean, what I was taught a long time ago was that, an appropriate pie chart of marketing should occur, right? Something to the effect of like your SEO pie, right? Your search engine optimization pie, your paid marketing spends within Google, maybe some social media,
Yeah.
right? You have your boots on the ground, business development, and then of course alumni list, but also too is trading back and forth from an admissions standpoint, right? Making sure that step ups and step downs are appropriately handled. And what I've seen is that I would say maybe boots on the ground business development in a specific way, like knowledge based clinical outreach, maybe had a bigger chunk of the pie at a certain point. Whereas right now, it would seem that with the kind of influx of residentials for mental health, and I'll speak to mental health mostly, but substance use still exists. It's just always been sort of like there's been a large quantity of those in existence for a while now. Mental health res has made that shift. Everybody wants to kind of do mental health, at varying degrees. That the boots on the ground in clinical outreach and knowledge, clients based on, trading with other facilities, based on knowledge and experience, has shifted more to I would say, like a paid marketing spend, right? Like a heavy internet dominant focus of let's say quality payment, and some of that I would say has to do with even the ever changing cost of operation, right? Like it's expensive to operate in this state, especially Southern California. Whereas $30,000 of treatment used to be like a significant thing. It's now 45,000 to operate in the same facility across the board. Maybe 42,500, whatever. But you get the idea. So people are watching a little bit more closely what kind of insurance policy that they're actually bringing in, right? Because the numbers have to match, right? You can't operate at a deficit. I've had my own personal experiences with this, right? People want to get paid more, but the cost of operation is more, the cost of gas, cost of, take your pick.
Yeah.
And so what maybe used to carry enough weight at 30,000 per bed doesn't anymore. And so I would say that in order to find insurance policies that are still paying at that kind of rate, you have to invest a lot of money in paid marketing to track those down. So there's a different type of boots on the ground now, and reciprocal trade, right, exists differently. You can't exactly just sell quality of treatment. You have to make sure that those people that are selling it know what they're bringing in as well, right? So it's unless you're in network, it's a completely different ball game. Please exclude any statements.
Yeah. This is private pay.
Private pay and out of network insurance, right? So those people operating facilities within the out of network range are targeting policies that will cover the rent plus, right? Or the cost of operation plus, right? And there's that's just what I've seen, is that there's a major push in the online presence now versus just strict boots on the ground clinical outreach, conveying hope and expertise and so on. So
Okay. And so is it where, so when you think about the influx of like clients that you're trying to do and like maintain like the census, are you saying there is a shift happening towards more of digital paid marketing and
As a means of targeted, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
and then from the outreach side, is it more relevant, less relevant now? I'm sure it continues to stay relevant because like you still have to go get the message
You
out.
still have to have somebody on the ground, yeah.
Okay.
I think that the knowledge or expertise of said individual changes, right? Whereas a person it benefits a person more nowadays to know right off the bat what an insurance policy is going to cover than knowing what the clinical team is capable of covering. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
Right? So now we're being just kind of it's almost being forced into making sure that the money makes sense before the clinical makes sense.
Wow. Okay.
So if that kind of draws a picture, and you're going to have good players and bad players on all sides. So long as the money's there to be made, people are going to find the back door any way they can. You know what I mean? And just the hope is always that the client's well-being is being cared for on the first hand, right? Is that the client is receiving the appropriate care for their needs, not so much their policy's paying well, and so we'll keep them right where they're at. Right.
Yeah.
That's always kind of the drive. And yet again, right? Like I have to be cautious in that I can't be the crusader for, right? Like for the good and the bad and the ugly and whatever, right? Like I want to see that people are keeping that client's well-being in the forefront of their mind, right? Making sure that they're getting the level of care that they need, right?
Got it. So it's like in some sense, for someone on the outreach side, it's becoming increasingly important to understand not just the clinical outcomes, but also the payer mix.
Yes.
In some sense.
I would say a well-rounded business development understands that their clinical team is capable of caring for so-and-so, and they have knowledge about what that means, like what the clinical team, how they're tackling things like trauma. What is the primary, trauma specialty? Is prolonged exposure therapy? Is it EMDR? Is it somatic experiencing, right? And, if there is psychosis or schizoaffective or schizophrenia or whatever, bipolar, how is the doctors in their facility, how are they generally approaching that? Do they have a vision for how to work with people on benzodiazepines, and is ketamine allowable, and why is ketamine allowable or not allowable, right? Like, and what is TMS doing, and are there other ancillary services that can be provided, right? Like a person should have that knowledge base, but then also too is a good, well-rounded person will also know insurance policies in general. This policy may pay, or right, or at least knows how to find that information, right? But relying, balance is everything.
Got it. Yeah, of course.
Balance is everything. You can want to save every client along the way.
Yeah.
And you're not going to make any money. But if you're making all the money and just not taking care of the client, like that's not good either, right?
And I'm guessing that doesn't help in the long run either, because like people will find out at the end of the day. Would you still agree that outcomes will matter for?
They do, but for what reason is also important, right? And it's not just outcomes for a future sale, but like outcomes for going in network for insurances, right? There's
Okay, got it.
This industry is such a wild thing because it's a gray area where two things meet: money and human lives. Right. And so this fierce balance has to be found somewhere in between there, and it's too far swinging in one direction or the other, and you've got to bust.
Right. Okay. So when you're thinking about, like, again, you are the boots on the ground. Again, you've worked at a number of places, so you kind of seen, I think, a variety of places in terms of the size, the kind of like stuff that they treat. And you also talked about there's so many facilities that have like sort of come up now, and which is kind of like talking about the shift to paid marketing as well as to make your presence felt. But when it comes to you being boots on the ground, and there are 5 others who are, let's say, trying to like build a relationship, etc., how are you differentiating yourself? Or is that a fact? Like, is that a factor that you keep in mind when you're forging a relationship with someone or deepening it with someone?
Yeah, I think that's well, in the hypothetical situation that nobody that I'm sitting with at any one given time knows where I work, right? So they don't have the pre-knowledge of what that place is or what they, what exists for them, right? Knowing how to differentiate that facility is one piece. Knowing how to connect with the individual across the table is an entirely different thing. And I think that comes innately. Most business development reps have some degree of a magnetic personality.
100%.
And so on. So then if you're a pile of 5 and you're trying to, work on this thing, really who's going to be the most memorable? And that changes from piece to piece. But I've always been big on those people who I find a strong connection with, sort of reaffirming that connection by way of calls and text messages, taking the time to find out like who that person is, what they like, and also, other things about them, their family, like what, do they have kids, they have dogs, they have whatever, and asking about those things, like taking a genuine like
interest
in the person that I'm talking with, and not just, hey, what's up? Yeah, I sent you that client. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because that feels disingenuous. And unfortunately, I think in a field of helping, right, a genuine tete-a-tete, if you will, is very helpful. So I try and always stand out in that way. Is I'd rather build quality relationships with a few than have a bunch of fake relationships with many, right? And yeah.
How do you define a quality relationship? I don't like maybe it's a
yeah. It's hard to say. I would say that a quality relationship is somebody that you can still, whether you're sending consistently back and forth or whatever, like you can still pick up the phone, like touch base with that person, like, hey, how's it going? How you doing? Relationships that have a tendency to be on the opposite end is really, is based on number, right? Can you consistently send? And if you can, then I will interact with you, right? So it's a very quid pro quo. I can interact with you on the phone. I can connect with you, blah, 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 so long as you're sending. But if you don't send, I can't get you on the phone. I can't talk to you. And so you become, at that point, it's a very cold, disingenuous, person. It's not really worth connecting. And as with some that we've already discussed, the tides are ever changing, and so I think it's key to build quality relationships with people that are more time lasting, really.
One thing that comes to mind is, like, I think you've talked about this before, where there are different kind of like people that you connect with. You're connecting with, I'm guessing, case managers, interventionists, other treatment centers, hospitals, EAPs. Does your approach sort of change when it comes to like approaching these referral sources and like forging that relationship, kind of like in a way where you getting those clients? And
from a personality perspective, no. I mean, I'm kind of always just going to be, I'm going to be me. I dress a certain way. People know this about me, and it's like, I think that sometimes people would feel a little more weirded out if all of a sudden I was, 3-piece suit and, and so on. And, it happens from time to time. But as far as, I'm going to pull another line out of somebody else, I was watching Jordan Belfort with Wolf of Wall Street was talking about, you could want to sell somebody on something, until they're blue in the face. If they don't need it, they don't need it. So why spend a bunch of time doing it?
Right.
And so I guess really with that, the idea is that my personality is always going to be my personality, but approaching different individuals, find out what the need is, right? What is it that you need? If it's an EAP, oftentimes EAPs want to know, do you have in-network contracts? Can you support our clientele with the insurance they have without them having to pay lots of money up front, right? Like, what does that look like? How can you guys suit our clients' needs? So being able to identify that person to person, right? Knowing what their facility is and what kind of insurance policies they cover, or if it's a EAP, you want to make sure that are they looking for mental health? Are they looking for substance use care? Like, what is it that they're seeing within the employees that they're helping?
Right.
What kind of insurance are they working with, right? And do we have the in-network contracts? So just really being able to identify what those people need. Personality-wise, you got to be you.
Yeah.
That's just the way
100%.
that it goes. And I find that I've built a lot of quality relationships over the years. Just me being me. That's it.
No, of course, like that helps. You have a very endearing personality,
Yeah.
so I think that helps
Thank
a
you,
lot.
thank you.
Yeah. So when it comes to so now that you've forged a relationship with someone, again, you meet these people at conferences or like other events, even the man events that you were like talking about, like which happen sort of monthly. Do the conversations vary every time if you're like trying to like meet them over and over again? Do you talk about any changes to the facility, the levels of care? How do you
Yeah, I think when you're sort of sharing, so especially like I'm thinking right now of like a man meeting, right, where this happens every month, and for the most part, 99% of the time, there's nothing really new to report. You may get up and share about your program for a new person who's never heard the pitch.
Yeah, I was more talking about like an existing person that you meet them again. So how do you...
So yeah, for somebody that's existing, I say relevance is big, no matter what, right? Remaining relevant, and not just disappearing off the map, right? So yet again, we circle back to quality relationships. I mean, if something new has changed in your program, that may come up in a general conversation, like back and forth. But massage the relationship, work on the relationship, because at the end of the day, they may go, oh yeah, that's right. I was just talking with Gabe, and that's right. His program has that in-network contract, or, I need something that he has, and so really just kind of trying to maintain that relationship. And so that's another piece that comes in with change, right?
Of course.
Being able to follow new business development reps as they influx into this industry, and making sure to meet those people, stay relevant.
That's a lot of facts. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of dimensions to like keep track of.
Yes.
Do you think you have it all up in your head, or do you use systems to sort of...
Yes, systems are always, I think, from especially back when I was running a team, it's like knowing where and who, what, when, where, why, and how, like knowing those components help us make those decisions on where a client's going, if they need to step up, if they need to step out and step down, or whatever the case might be, who has a specialty, right? Like, we want to be able to track all of that stuff. Computer systems, this is, phenomenal. That's kind of why I love, like, even your system, right? Like, working with New Resilience, is there's an element within it that kind of takes away the guessing game of who's what, right? Like, if you can find a classification of, like, and this phones help with this too, but right, finding out who's in network, right? Where's all my in-network facilities? Where's all my out-of-network facilities? Who's my EAPs? Who's my clinical, right? And having all of those categories easily accessible. Then when somebody calls and says, hey, gee whiz, I have an IEHP, blah, 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 and so on and so forth, instead of going, gee, I wonder where, right? Typing it up, right? Or looking in the... And sometimes I have that information offhand. More often than not, I can generally like produce some knowledge, but there's plenty of people I forget to, and that's where relevance stays.
Right.
But yes, computer systems, I mean, by all means, that's unnecessary. Yeah.
Got it. So, like, when you think about some of the changes that are happening, what's one advice that you would probably give to like someone who's maybe in the field for some time, but like some of the patterns that you're seeing in the system right now, or the space right now, and how to sort of brace for change? Because
I think that just becoming as well versed in all areas of outreach, of business development, become as well versed as you possibly can be. Know how to speak to the things that your treatment facility treats, right? Understand what, empirical data is, and like how certain modalities are, I was just talking with somebody about trauma specialties and what APA deems, is most appropriate for, certain types of treatment for trauma, what those time frames look like, right? And just really having all of that information sort of with you, and also taking the time to understand what insurance looks like. And that's a ball of wax in and of itself. As we used to laugh, or most favorite thing to hear from a parent was, well, but they said it was 100% covered.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's a Blue Shield of California. Did they tell you what that means?
Yeah.
Right? What does 100% covered mean? And it's like, have they met their out-of-pocket, deductibles? Their out-of-pocket maximums, and have they met all the necessary financials, right, to first get to a place of 100% of what is allowed? Did they tell you what was allowed? Because if they didn't tell you that, then 100% of what, right? It's 100% of a made-up number, or good sales tactic. Let's say that, right? So anybody who has watched this would know that if you're an out-of-network facility, a Blue Shield of California is absolutely terrible and doesn't do much for the way of coverage on any account. And you're most likely going to have to bleed a family dry of finances before any money gets paid out. So it's 100% of garbage.
Yeah.
And just being able to communicate that with the family, like the family sitting there thinking, oh, I got a really great policy. Their sales team told me so. And it's like, I'm so sorry, but they lied to you.
Yeah.
Not that you had an opportunity anyway, because you got that, or MHN, or well, you used to have that too. I don't think you have that anymore. So pretty much just Blue Shield of California. Sorry, you're shit out of luck.
Yeah. Is that your top sales advice if you were to come to it?
Yeah. Become as well versed as you possibly can on both sides, right? Know the insurance piece, know the insurance game, and generally, try and know
the modalities.
Well, and know the modalities. Yeah. So clinical speak, right? Medication speak. Understand your facility, but also to understand what insurance coverage looks like.
Got it.
Also, I think there is another piece, and that piece is how to communicate with the client, right? How to communicate with the client, and I would say that's another ever-changing piece. But especially where mental health is concerned, right? If you don't have a relationship, if you don't have rapport, if they don't trust you, you have absolutely nothing.
And that's bringing in a lot of empathy, I'm sure. But also, is it bringing in personal experiences? Like, what's worked for you?
What's worked for me is to understand where they're at, right? If somebody who's psychotic says, like, hey, dude, there's bugs crawling under my skin, to them that's as real as you and I talking. Okay, so why deny that?
Sure.
Is it my place to go ahead and tell them, like, nah, you're crazy, that's not happening, that's not going to build a relationship? Instead, what I say is, man, that sounds like it's really scary, or it's really tough. If they're being tickled by them, like, man, that must bring some level of joy, right? Like, I'm basically trying to align with their feeling on the matter. And the moment I'm doing that, they don't hear, oh my God, somebody thinks I'm nuts, they must be the enemy. Instead, he or she is on the other end of the line going, oh my God, somebody's willing to listen to me. And that right there changes
all
everything.
the difference.
Huge difference. Just align with them. And it sounds like it's really tough, dude. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
What if I could tell you what if I told you there was a way that we could kind of help you with that?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I've had all too many times, somebody gets on the line and they go, oh man, I really like you.
Yeah.
They don't even know me. We just had a couple of little trades back and forth in legal, but I was willing to listen.
Yeah.
And to try and understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
So,
in theory it sounds simple, but in practice I'm sure it's
difficult. Yep. Especially if they're sitting right in front of you, I think the stigma plays into that, right? If you listen to a lot of the hype, sometimes it's these clients are always dangerous. And that's not the case. Like, oftentimes they're frightened. That, I suppose that could lead to some potential dangers, but they're frightened, or they feel cut down and they feel unheard, and really all you have to do is just align with them. Align with them. I've seen clients. I had one facility call me one day, and they were ready to transfer this kid out.
Mm.
And he was just experiencing some what the doctor had classed as a bipolar mania, and he was feeling like Superman, and he was telling me all about it, and I'm not taking meds, and blah 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 blah. And I just sat and I talked with him for a little while, and 5-10 minutes later, this kid was like, you know what? I think I will take the meds. And I was able to kind of get back on with their case manager, be like, don't transfer him out, just go have him take the meds. It sounds like he's willing to stay, and just that quick, it was over. He went from resisting, oh, we need to get this headache out, blah blah blah, this is taking too much staff time, so on and so forth, to being like, hey, even Superman has to kind of like manage his stuff,
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you know what, you're right. Yeah, John, you're absolutely right. Yeah, look, dude, Popeye had to eat spinach, man, right? You got to sometimes you got to do things you don't want to, but maybe it'll help.
Yeah.
They go, oh, I think I'll give it a try.
And going back to this meeting where they are.
Building a rapport with people. They're humans. Just struggling humans.
Yeah.
And we've all been there, so it's best when somebody's listening.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. One question would be, if you had a magic wand to sort of see the best outcome for like the space, what would that look like?
I don't know. That everybody gets all the help that they need and becomes better, Yeah, I don't know. I would say that one of the hardest things, I think, is when families struggle to digest where their loved one is at. And maybe that's something drawing off my own personal, but I know that I've heard some therapists talk about it as the death of the dream, right? This kind of like, expectation of what would be for their loved one and so on, right? And maybe it's not even a parent to a child, but even like, somebody who's struggling, what they expected for themselves, right? Like, what does that dream look like? Like, I get a felony, guess what? I'm never going to be the president of the United States. Maybe that was my dream. I don't know. But the point is that watching families sort of have to travel through this pain of, oh my God, my son was this, and I don't know him anymore, or I don't know her anymore for daughter, right? Like, that transition can be very, very difficult for a parent, and understandably so, right? They go from having a child who's neat and clean and so on. They clip their nails. They want to get their hair cut and so on, to having somebody who's been robbed of all understanding of hygiene and cleanliness, and they don't pick up after themselves. They no longer look at you as your parent, but an enemy, right? Like, this stuff is very, very difficult for parents. And I would say, if I had a magic wand, just being able to fix some element of that for people, like, that would be great, just because I just couldn't imagine that's painful. That would be painful. And two, if there was a pill to fix schizophrenia, I think that would be really great. I have a friend that's, and I just watch him. He just struggles, man. I just listen.
Yeah.
I know his story. He tells me the same story every time. Every single time. I know the same story. I know all the key points, right?
Yeah.
This, that, and the other. And
but you still show the same level of curiosity, I'm sure, every time.
Yeah. Not every time, right?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes just been a long day. I'm not trying to hear the, this, that, and the other. But the orbital blowout, and I got a tattoo, so that caused my schizophrenia. That type of thing. But more often than not, I just try and remind him, it's simple. Like, man, you're doing good. You're a great guy. You're doing good. What does it matter? And he goes, thank you, man. Thank you. And he just wants to be reassured like anybody else. You got my back, right? And I'm like, yeah. I got your back. I don't know what he thinks coming, but if something starts coming, I got his back,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
What are you excited about?
I remained excited about I hate to be selfish and self-centered in this way, but my own my own personal growth, right? Which is, I think that being connected to this field, it gives it like a little cheat code, right? Because it's constantly in our face, and we all have problems. We all have problems. It's time to fix and do therapy and so on and so forth. But that's real, right? Like this world, I think in general could benefit from some degree of, of recovery from something. And so just even my own personal experiences, it's kind of like somebody said, if you're not working in anything currently, work on yourself. And it's like that growth. I'm excited to see what I can become versus, like to come from where I came from and continue to grow. And that's just directly attribute that to just being in this field and constantly hearing that message,
Okay. If you were to give one message to the folks listening here, what would that be?
Yeah, make your life easier by tracking with the CRM New Resilience. That's it, man. This is real simple. I've never seen a system so good. That's it.
All right.
That's real. But and yeah, always happy to hear to work with you and AB, wherever AB is.
Yeah.
He's in the background.
Yeah. Yes. Always is.
Yeah, he's always with us. We just pray to AB. But yeah, no, I'm happy to be here and helpful to you guys. So, yeah.
Thank you for being here, Gabe.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Fun as always.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right.